My own sister texted me, "You don't need to come to the wedding. It's not your place. No call, no explanation. Just that." I read it standing in my studio surrounded by the wedding plans I'd built for her. The flowers, the layouts, the dream she wanted. I'd given months of my life to that day, and in one message she erased me. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just sat down, opened my contracts folder, and realized who actually owned every single piece of her perfect fairy tale. 7 days later, that fairy tale burned to the ground. But the story doesn't start there. It starts long before I ever hit send. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the sidewalk. The lawn stayed trimmed. The curtains always matched the season, and my mother made sure the Christmas lights never went up a day late. To neighbors, we were the Voss family, refined, respectable, picture perfect. Inside, though, it was less a home and more a stage where only one person ever got the spotlight, my sister Olivia. Olivia was born glowing. At least that's how my parents told it. She was loud, magnetic, impossible to ignore. By the time I was old enough to hold a crayon, she was already stealing the show, singing at every school concert, winning every contest, being the face of the family. I was the quiet one, the helper, the sweetheart, who keeps things together. It sounds like a compliment until you realize it really means stay small so she can shine. Our mother Elaine loved appearances more than comfort. She'd glide through the house in her silk robe, whispering things like, "Don't make a scene, Sarah," whenever Olivia threw a tantrum. Dad Henry didn't yell, but his silence was worse. He'd just look up from his paper sigh and say, "You know your sister means well. Translation, forgive her. Fix it, move on." So I learned early that love in our house came with terms and conditions. If Olivia messed up, I cleaned it. If she cried, I apologized. If she triumphed, I clapped. Still, I believed family was worth holding together. Maybe that's why I built a career around creating perfect celebrations for other people, weddings that ran on time, vows spoken under fairy lights, the kind of harmony I never saw at home. Voss Atelier and Comer became my sanctuary, the one place where control didn't mean compromise. When Olivia got engaged to Ethan Wealthy, polished the type who used his middle name on business cards, my parents threw a dinner that felt like an announcement to the whole neighborhood. Our girls, Mom said, eyes misty, one with the ring, one with the brains. Everyone laughed. I smiled. I was used to being the footnote. Still, I wanted to believe this time might be different. Olivia asked me to design her wedding because no one does beauty like you, Sarah. I took it as peace. For months, I worked late nights sketching, calling vendors, building a dream she barely thanked me for. Every decision passed through her. Every change came last minute. I told myself it was love. I told myself it would mean something. But it wasn't love. It was habit. A lifetime of trying to earn a seat at a table where my name was always on the wrong place card. Looking back, the signs were all there, the small dismissals, the invisible lines drawn around me. I just didn't see how deep they ran until the day my own family decided I didn't belong in the picture at all. The first crack didn't sound like thunder. It came in a text message that buzzed across my desk late one night while I was revising her seating chart. "Hey," Olivia wrote, "can you cover the florist's balance?" The invoice came higher than expected. No greeting, no thank you. Just an order disguised as a favor. I stared at the screen for a long moment, the cursor blinking beside her name. I'd already paid the deposit. That was my gift. Still, my fingers hovered above the keyboard before I finally typed, "That's all I can do. My gift stops there." The dots blinked. Her reply came fast. "Don't make this difficult. You know I'm under pressure." That was Olivia's way. Every crisis became a moral test for whoever loved her. I could almost hear our mother's voice echoing behind her. "If you can help, you should." The next morning, I found Mom sitting at the kitchen counter, robe tied perfectly, spoon-tapping her coffee cup. I asked softly, "Did Olivia tell you she wants me to pay more?" She sighed the same sigh she'd been rehearsing since my childhood. "Honey, she's planning the biggest day of her life. Don't add to her stress. If you can help her, do it. Of course." Help her. Always her. The pattern repeated so often it became muscle memory. I left the room before my voice cracked. The following week, Dad called. His tone started gentle, practiced. "We're all chipping in for Liv and Ethan's housewarming gift, a down payment on their first home. Your share is $3,000. Just transfer it to me when you can." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Dad, I'm not even invited to the wedding anymore." There was a pause. Then that disappointed sigh again. "Sarah, don't turn this into drama. It's not about the wedding. It's about family." Family. That word had always meant give until it hurts. I hung up and just sat there surrounded by blueprints of other people's happiness. My office smelled faintly of roses and printer ink, but all I could taste was bitterness. That night, scrolling through my phone, I saw a cousin's Instagram post, Olivia's bridal shower. Same venue I'd scouted months ago, the decorations I'd designed. The caption read, "The A-Team celebrating our bride." My name wasn't on any tag, not one. Something inside me twisted, part heartbreak, part clarity. I'd always thought silence was strength, but in that moment I understood it had only made me invisible. 10 days before the wedding, my phone rang again. Olivia's voice hit me before I could even say hello. "The band just canceled, their singer's sick. You have to fix this." Her tone wasn't panic, it was command, as if I still worked for her. I took a breath. My voice came out level. "I'm not your planner anymore, Olivia." The pause that followed was so sharp it cut the air. Then came the scream. "Are you kidding me after everything I've done for you?" But I didn't argue. I just ended the call. The sound of the click felt like a door locking from the inside. That was the night I stopped trying to be invited. And by morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do about it. The night after that call, I sat at my kitchen table long after midnight. The city outside my window pulsed with life car horns, distant laughter, the hum of everything that wasn't mine to fix anymore. In front of me lay months of work, binders, receipts, contracts, the bones of a wedding that had already erased me. I flipped through the pages mechanically, at first looking for closure and strategy, but then something caught my eye. My own company name printed across every contract header, Voss Atelier & Co. The venue, the catering, the florals, the lighting, all signed under my business account. My signature, my terms. A slow current of realization ran through me. If the final payments weren't made by the deadline, the contracts became void. It was like discovering a door I'd built myself years ago without knowing I'd need it. The next morning, I met Nora Kane at a quiet coffee shop downtown. She'd been my friend since college, the one person who'd seen me go from design intern to business owner. Nora arrived in her usual black suit, hair pulled back, legal pads tucked under one arm. She didn't need much context. I just slid the folder toward her. "I signed everything through the company. They haven't paid the final balances." Nora scanned the pages, flipping fast, her pen tapping against the edge of the table. After a moment, she looked up. "Sarah, these are solid. You're the client of record. If you don't pay, every vendor is free to cancel. You can even reclaim your deposits. Legally, they can't touch you." I let out a short breath that felt more like disbelief than relief. "If I did that, the wedding collapses." She shrugged. "Then it collapses. They treated your work like charity. This isn't revenge, it's boundaries." I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl into brown clouds. "Boundaries," I repeated, as if saying the word could make it real. That night, I sat in front of my laptop cursor, blinking on a blank email draft. For years, I'd stayed quiet to keep peace. Now silence had a different weight, it was strategy. I began typing, "As the client on record for the event scheduled. August 30th, I am writing to confirm that final payment will not be remitted. Please consider this notice of cancellation effective immediately." I copied the same line 4 times, venue, caterer, florist, entertainment. My hands didn't shake, not this time. I scheduled each email to send at 9:00 a.m. the next morning. Then I closed my laptop and just sat there in the dim light, feeling the stillness settle. No fireworks, no satisfaction yet, just quiet. For the first time in my life, that quiet didn't mean defeat. it meant control. By sunrise, I poured myself a cup of coffee, opened the window, and waited. At exactly 9:00 a.m., 4 little whooshes of sound broke the silence emails sent. By noon, every lie they'd built would begin to fall apart. At first, there was nothing, just the sound of my coffee machine hissing and the faint city noise below my apartment window. Then noon struck and the world on the other side of my phone began to unravel. I didn't have to be there to know how it happened. I could see it in my mind frame by frame, as if the universe had decided to show me what silence could do. Olivia would have been sitting at the nail salon with her bridesmaid's phone face up beside a glass of iced tea, laughing too loud for the cameras. Then the first call came from the venue manager. His voice would have been calm, rehearsed. "I'm sorry, Ms. Voss, but we received a cancellation notice from Voss Atelier & Co. Your reservation has been released." She'd laugh at first, thinking it was a mistake, because in Olivia's world, things didn't happen to her. They happened for her. She'd call him back, switch to that syrupy tone she used when she wanted something. But the man would remain polite and firm. No payment, no event. Within an hour, the dominoes fell. The caterer, the florist, the entertainment. Each call another chip in the porcelain perfection she'd built. And when she finally dialed my number, the one she'd been ignoring for weeks, my phone lit up across the table. I let it ring twice before answering. Sarah. She snapped, her voice a mix of panic and fury. "What the hell did you do?" "The venue just canceled." "The caterer too." "They're saying you pulled the plug." I took a slow sip of water, watching the light shift across my kitchen wall. "I didn't pull anything," I said evenly. "I just chose not to make the final payments. That's how contracts work." "You're insane. You've ruined my wedding." I could hear our mother in the background, her voice breaking through the chaos, shouting orders, demanding explanations. Then Dad's deeper tone, sharp with anger, the soundtrack of my entire childhood. "No," I said quietly. "I didn't ruin your wedding. You did when you decided I wasn't worth a seat at it." There was silence on the line, the kind that hums. Then Olivia's voice cracked shrill now. "Do you even realize what you've done? Guests are flying in. Ethan's family is already here." And yet somehow I said, my voice finally sharpening, there was no room for me. She sucked in a breath that sounded more like a sob. "You're pathetic, Sarah. You've always been jealous. You'll die alone in that little office with your contracts and your spreadsheets." The words should have cut. They used to. But all I felt was an odd kind of calm, like standing in the eye of a storm I'd survived too many times before. "Maybe," I said softly, "but at least I'll never beg people to love me while I'm destroying them." The line went silent again. No screaming this time, just breathing. Then a click. For a moment, I thought that was it. But it wasn't. 10 minutes later, my phone exploded. Mom, Dad. Unknown numbers from the venue and catering company, each trying to drag me back into the chaos. I didn't answer. I let it all buzz across the countertop until the vibration rattled a spoon against my glass. By late afternoon, the silence on their end turned into messages, voicemails layered with rage. Dad's voice boomed through one. "Sarah, you've embarrassed this family. You'll pay back every cent." Another from Mom, breathless and shaking. "How could you? She's your sister. Fix this, please, just fix it." I deleted each one without listening all the way through. The next day I went for a walk along the river. The sun shimmered off the water, bright enough to hurt my eyes. My phone stayed in my pocket, buzzing like a caged thing I refused to touch. Every missed call was another reminder the disaster was unfolding exactly as it needed to. That evening, Nora called. "It's all over the wedding circuit," she said, half amused. "The vendors are talking. Apparently Olivia tried to rebook everything last minute. The only available spot she found was some backyard in Maplewood. They're renting folding tables from a hardware store." I laughed, not cruelly, just softly. "That sounds about right." "You okay?" Nora asked. I looked out at the skyline lights flickering in the distance. "Better than I expected," I said. "I thought I'd feel guilty." "You don't owe them guilt, Sarah. You gave them grace for 30 years. This is just gravity. I smiled at that gravity, things falling the way they should. On the morning of the wedding, I woke before sunrise. The sky outside was streaked with pink and gold, the kind of light planners dream about for perfect ceremony photos. Somewhere across town, my family was scrambling, shouting, sweating in rented tents. I could picture it, the wilted flowers, the cheap linens, the guests whispering. I brewed a cup of coffee, packed my suitcase, and headed to the airport. While security checked my ticket, my phone buzzed again, this time a text from Dad. "Sarah, please. Olivia's devastated. Just come. We'll fix it." I typed one word back, "No," then powered off my phone for good. As the plane lifted into the air, I looked out the window. Below me, the city shimmered under the morning sun, beautiful, distant, finally quiet. I didn't need to destroy them. All I'd done was step away, and without me holding everything up, the whole facade crumbled on its own. By the time my plane touched down in Honolulu, the chaos had already turned to silence. I turned my phone back on, and for a few seconds, it lit up like fireworks texts, stacked one after another. "You have to call us. She's hysterical. This is on you." Then nothing. No more rings, no more guilt pulling me by the throat. Just the sound of ocean wind outside the terminal and my own heartbeat slowing down for the first time in years. I checked into a small seaside hotel, the kind with salt-stained windows and the faint smell of sunscreen baked into the walls. The air was warm, alive. I kicked off my shoes, opened the balcony door, and stood there watching the waves fold into each other. For so long, I'd built other people's perfect days, polished, symmetrical, camera-ready. But this uneven horizon, this quiet, was mine. 2 days later, Nora called. Her voice was dry, half amused. "They actually went through with it," she said. "Backyard wedding. Folding chairs, grocery store cake, and pizza boxes on the buffet table." I laughed softly. "Not with cruelty, just with release." "Fitting," I said. "They finally got something real." "Guess so," Nora replied. "What are you going to do now?" I looked out at the sea, the sunlight breaking into shards on the water. "Build something that's mine. And this time I won't invite anyone who only comes to take." That night I walked along the beach, barefoot waves brushing against my ankles. The same words my grandmother once told me came back steady and true. Your worth isn't in what you give away, it's in what you hold on to. And for the first time, I was finally holding on to me. Families can wound you in ways no stranger ever could. They know exactly where to cut, and for years I kept bleeding quietly, thinking it was love. But walking away wasn't destruction, it was survival. I didn't ruin my sister's wedding. I simply stopped carrying it. And when I finally stepped back, the truth revealed itself. The whole thing had been standing on my shoulders all along. If you've ever had to protect your peace from people who claim to love you, I see you. You're not heartless, you're healing. Share your story in the comments. Tell me where you're listening from. And hit subscribe, because sometimes the next story you hear might remind you how strong you really are.